Hello, and welcome to another episode of Myths and Stories, a Destiny 2 lore podcast. We are continuing our series on Saint and Osiris. Our last episode, we left off with Osiris, who had been named the Vanguard commander, was shirking his duties for the most part. He was allowing Ikora to fill in for him in a lot of cases with like tactical decisions and whatnot as he continued his research into the Vex. He was very open about his discoveries with that research to the general populace and was much to his dismay turned into this like religious figure in the eyes of a certain subset of the population, bringing themselves to call themselves the cult of Osiris. He wrote his research down, thinking that that would clear everything up somehow.
Nope.
And all he did,
Bad idea, buddy.
all he did was provide his followers, quote unquote, with a religious text. And we ended with the speaker discovering this and ordering Saint to have all of the books burned.
Bad day.
Yeah.
Bad saint. No, wait, no. Bad Osiris. Wait, bad speaker? I don't know. This is all bad.
All bad. All bad. So, I say that was the end of the first issue of the Osiris comic that Bungie created, that is still available on comics.bungie.net for free if you're ever interested in going and reading those.
Is that the saint? Is that one also included in the one you get from the Bungie store? I think that's the one
Yes.
I have.
Yes.
It's just like the collection of all of them.
Yep. That has the one from the Bungie store has the Osiris comic. It has the Anna Bray comics. And then I think exclusive to the one you buy from the Bungie store, it has the Cade 6 comic.
I think you're right.
With the initial tracking down of the Barons prior to Forsaken. But we are going to be continuing with the Osiris comics to start off with this episode. So we are going to be on issue number 2, which is the final issue dealing with Osiris specifically. Again, it's a comic, so it's going to not translate to a audio format. You know, it's going to be a little incomplete by comparison to actually seeing the pictures, but I'll do what I can to try and describe the situations.
I'm still expecting full panel explanation and reading. Full table read is what's happening here.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Saint enters stage left. Walks through. Yeah. No, that's not happening. I can't even do that on the fly. I suck.
So we are going to get right into it then. So we open up on this comic panel. It is a discussion between Ikora and Osiris as they are traveling from Osiris's workshop to wherever the current HQ of the Vanguard is. It's unclear if it's, you know, the original tower at this point or if it's a different area that just looks kind of similar. But Osiris is now traveling, and I think this is funny. He's traveling in disguise, quote unquote. But much like the MCU, in disguise in this instance just means putting a hood up and literally not changing anything else about his attire at all.
Did none of these guys really like that? Doesn't work,
right? It's like, you
Clark
know,
Kent glasses aren't that doesn't like I've taken my glasses off and nobody's been like, "Oh my God, you're Ethan Hawke." No, that's not how that works.
Yeah, you can't just put like a black baseball cap on and suddenly you're incognito.
Nope.
It doesn't.
Nope.
It doesn't work that way. So, needless to say, Ikora and Osiris are escaping, quote unquote, his workshop, and having a conversation as they're going along. So, that conversation starts with Ikora remarking on the followers that have literally set up camps, like tents and everything, outside Osiris's workshop. And so she sees them and remarks to him, "Don't these people have homes?" And Osiris responds, "The area outside my study has become their home. I find myself powerless to stop it." Ikora, well, the change of clothes seemed to have thrown them off the trail. I'm sorry, nothing changed in the photo.
even even she is confused at this. Even Ikora is like, that's not how this world works. You can't just throw on sunglasses and be like incognito mode.
Well, regardless, apparently it does work in this instance.
Either that or Guardians are dumb. No, I guess these are just followers, aren't they?
Yeah, they're just followers.
I know I'm kind of like interrupting the reading it a little bit, but I do want to kind of touch on that. Are
Yeah.
the followers mostly just people of the city, or are they part guardian? Are there some guardians that are followers? Is it kind of a mix of both?
Yeah, they haven't explicitly pointed out any guardians. It does seem to be mostly civilians.
Okay.
Not to say that there couldn't be guardians as well, but just there hasn't been like a pointed, this is a guardian that's following him.
Sure, and I think that's kind of what I'm kind of getting at too. Like, is there something about other people having the light and just seeing him as like, oh, you're just another guardian. Like you're not there's nothing like crazy special about you. You just happen to be a guardian that's obsessed with Vex. Whereas like the people of the city who maybe don't fully understand the light or fully understand resurrection and whatnot, that they're just looking at this as like, I need a beacon in the night.
Yeah. And especially considering his position as Vanguard Commander.
Yep, Vanguard Commander, yep. Which that was another thing I wanted to touch on too. Like the fact that he's shirking his duties and then like Ikora's just kind of have to like do it for him. Like I think that puts a lot of weight on Ikora's shoulders.
Oh yeah.
And really I think it's thinking of like what's going on in game now and what's going on in game recently, like Ikora, of like the decision making that she's had to make in those times without really having like been officially or whatever put in that position to be like kind of just shoved into it and been like, make decisions, do stuff, and she's just like, okay, I guess we do this then.
Yep. Now I feel like Ikora has very rarely been in the position of power because she necessarily wanted to be there or wanted to be there at that time, and it was more of a like, well, you're the only one here, so
yeah,
I guess it's you.
That's just dangerous too. Like that's lots of bad decisions are being made in these early days of the Vanguard.
But so they're progressing through the town. They do eventually get to kind of the doorway leading to the HQ here. And Ikora tells Osiris, "The speaker will be glad to see you." Well, the speaker is a fool. I'm not a fan either, but he does lead the city and it needs defending, Osiris. It'll be good to have you at your post. And then they walk through the door, and who is there but the speaker, who sees them coming and says, "Well, look who decided to grace us with his presence. Taking a break from being a religious demagogue to come here and do your job, are you? As it has become abundantly clear, because you are incapable of doing yours without me," is Osiris to the speaker. And the speaker turns. "Please, repeat that, Osiris. I don't believe everyone heard." And Osiris takes the bait. "I said, in as many words, that we're all here to work. So let's get to it. Ikora has covered me in my absence, but you ignored both her advice and her warnings. Because of that, Twilight Gap has become vulnerable to attack. I recommend that we..." And the speaker interrupts, "Liar." And this is interesting because now we're seeing people in the background. These are just like the workers at the stations kind of thing. Not necessarily anyone of import, but they're kind of whispering to themselves after hearing the speaker talk back to Osiris. And they're whispering to themselves, they're saying, the speaker dares address the Great One in such a way. The speaker practices heresy? But this doesn't go unnoticed. And so the speaker, picking up on this, turns to Osiris and says, you see what you have done? Even here, your lies infect us. The great Osiris, bah! And Osiris responds, Speaker, I do not solicit nor do I welcome the followers, but if they subscribe to my teachings, perhaps that is a sign that your understanding of the traveler is at best incomplete and incomplete. I speak for the traveler. None understand it as I do. Then speak, speaker. Go on. Tell us of the Vex. The Vex are inconsequential. A race of robots incapable of imaginative thinking, forever reliant on the same strategies that have failed them 1,000 times before. They are irrelevant. Ah, so the fact that a vault that exists in multiple realities is of no concern to you. It is contained, but the Vex are not. They will never be satisfied with a pocket of our universe, speaker. They are building a new type of simulation engine. If they succeed, simulations. We are to follow you in fear because of simulations. They're already able to simulate citizens. I believe they intend to begin simulating guardians. Tell me, speaker, what happens when they simulate someone? From the largest structure down to the smallest particle. Rubbish. It's impossible. Oh, it's possible. I'll tell you what happens. They produce perfectly simulated guardians that they can kill and resurrect 1,000,000 times until they know the real deal better than we know ourselves. They simulate the traveler's light, and they use it to kill us all. So that's the end of that panel and kind of this argument between the two.
Like, man, okay. So they, whoo, oh, let's go. Like I'm in that zone now. So this is really interesting here. It really shows how little everyone knows about the Vex at this point in time.
Mm-hmm.
Like on the speaker side, he's like, well, they're nothing. They're just robots doing nothing. They've never done anything. Well, yeah, to an outside observer looking at it, they're like, oh, yeah, they're not really they're not threatening anything. They have no reason to threaten anything. In their eyes, it's just moving the pattern forward, and they'll get to it when they get to it. They still have to work within the confines. They being the Vex, they still have to work within the confines of our reality. So they're just doing what they can in that time. Outside of like directly being attacked, they don't really care because it's a non-issue to them. But then, like, again, from Saint's point of view, or sorry, Osiris's point of view, where he's like, no, this is a real issue. They have a vault that exists in multiple realities. Speaking of the Vault of Glass, and not even knowing what that thing is or does. Like not knowing about Atheon, not knowing about timelines, but knowing enough that they can do simulations, and knowing enough that they can do perfect simulations, but not knowing enough that they don't know how to simulate light because of the paracausality of it. So again, a little misunderstanding on Osiris's part too, of like, hey, yeah, these things can create simulations. Sort of. Like, as long as paracausality isn't included, we can simulate all day long. We can simulate a being, we can simulate a structure down, and Osiris has it right here, down to the molecular structures that make up that thing. And Osiris is really seeing this as like a true threat. But then also, the kind of like sidebar that's happening in this whole thing of like, hey, your cult has made it in my fucking tower. All right, you zealot son of a bitch. You listen here, speaker. This is cool that you speak for the traveler, but you're taking this power trip way too freaking high. Like, calm the fuck down, please. Yeah. So yeah, this scene is like, I'm ready to fight both sides here. Like, let's go.
Well, you're not the only one. So the next panel that we have here is not with Osiris or the speaker. It is with a group of guardians. Presumably, they're kind of sitting in a courtyard, probably outside the tower. And it seems to be happening either shortly after this argument or during this argument. And this group of guardians, there's a hunter, looks like a hunter, a warlock, Ikora, and then a Titan. And they're discussing what's going on. And so this discussion, they're talking amongst themselves, saying, you know, looks like they're fighting again. Who's fighting? Who else? Osiris and the speaker. It is a difference of opinion, not a... No, Osiris is a heretic, and we've let him run rampant for too long. No, Osiris is literally seen the future. He's our leader. All Titans know is punching stuff. I've seen what's out there, and Osiris is right. Future War Cult claims to see the future too, and they're all crazy, just like Osiris. Osiris is going to be the end of the city. And now they're starting to draw powers. We're seeing a Stormcaller like getting a grenade going. The Titan is kind of pushing the Hunter around now. We as they're about to like go to blows in the tower here, we see Shax step in.
Yeah.
And Shax gets between the Titan and the Stormcaller, which are about to go after each other. And the Titan has the audacity to yell at Shax and say,
"You poor fool! It was at this moment the Titan knew he fucked up."
Yes. So the Titan, responding to Shax kind of pushing him away and separating them, says, "This isn't your fight, Shax." And Shax responds, "All battles are my battles, whelp. If you want to bicker, take your fight to the Crucible. I'm sure Ikora will be more than happy to meet you there. And after your ghost revives you, maybe then you'll be willing to act like a guardian. We fight to prepare for the greater battles that are to come, and war is coming." And then that's the end of that panel.
God, yeah. That's, again, when you start including this like heresy and zealotry, it gets fucking dangerous. Mm-hmm. People start taking that shit to heart, and like now there's a cause to fight for. Now it's greater than you, the person. And when you get to that level of I hate to call this, but radicalization.
Yeah.
It's dangerous. It is straight dangerous to get to that level. And so like I can see, again, from a leadership standpoint, I can see where like the speaker wants to shut this down. And like in Shax even here, like I love the when your ghost reses you, like he already knows they're fucked. Like, yeah. Also, I took that punching thing personally. We Titans also like shotguns and swords, so suck it. And sidearms.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that's within like 5 meters. Anything I can get within punching. Oh, I see what you did there. Okay. All right. You win this argument.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, but like that's dangerous. That's dangerous thinking, and I can, like I said, I can see where they want to kind of squash this bug before it explodes. And they even bring it up there too, like the future war cult. They claim to have seen the future, and those guys are fucking nuts. Like
Mm-hmm.
screw that group. So yeah, it's really it's dangerous. That's all there is to it.
Yeah. So we've seen now, clearly conflict between the speaker and Osiris directly. Um, Now conflict between guardians, like to the point where they're going to have open fights in the tower courtyard over this issue.
Well, we now know why there's a suppression field in the tower.
Yeah.
Like that's why you can't use any abilities in the tower. I get it now.
So we open on the next scene here, in the hall of the consensus, and we have kind of like a it's kind of like a stage almost. Um,
Is this the hall that like in D1? Is it the where the speaker? God, there's two spots that I'm thinking of right now. Either one where the speaker was sitting, where it had like that big like machine, like
no,
looked like it was scanning the traveler,
yeah,
or the other one where it was. Oh no, I guess that's the Vanguard War Room, isn't it?
yeah. I don't believe we've been to this location in game.
Okay.
It's almost like a Colosseum style, where the
Oh, interesting.
middle, down at the bottom in the middle, is where the speaker and the members of the consensus are sitting around kind of this circular table.
Okay, so more
And
like
then
Arthurian, like Knights of the Round style.
a little bit, and then on levels above them are seats where the general populace are sitting, watching
Oh,
the
okay.
meeting unfold down below and in the center.
Yeah, with like a good public view of everything.
Yeah.
Interesting. I like this.
So the speaker is at the head of the consensus, and he even has his own special chair, which is bigger than all the others, which like is
I'm
a
telling
is
you,
a
man. This
throne,
I'm telling
essentially.
you, he's kind of appointed himself.
Yeah.
Whatever. This is dangerous territory, man.
So the speaker is here on his throne, and the members of the consensus are gathered around with one notable omission. Uh, Osiris's chair is empty, and the speaker takes this as his opportunity to speak to the consensus as well as the crowd around him, because there are many civilians that are in this kind of amphitheater. And he says, "Honored representatives of the factions, guardians of the vanguard, thank you for attending the consensus today. We gather in this dark time, a time when our enemies approach our very walls to plan for the preservation of humanity. We gather for the protection of the city, and we gather to consider the fate of one who has abandoned his post, and in doing so has abandoned us all. Even now, at this critical hour, our vanguard commander is not here. And so I ask, where is Osiris?" And he's motioning to the empty chair next to him. And then, as he says the "where is Osiris," he just literally pushes the chair over completely. And the chair falls at Ikora's feet, who's standing kind of a little ways away from the table. And the speaker continues, "Are we really to be satisfied with our fates left in the hands of his student? I know what they say of the great Osiris, that he's a hero, a warrior, a guardian, a scholar. But I speak for the traveler, and I know the truth. Osiris is an apostate, a deserter, a coward, a traitor. And we see some murmuring amongst the crowd at this, and they're saying, oh, he's right, isn't he? No, Osiris says he knows the future, but what if he's wrong? Well, has the traveler turned him against us? No, the speaker has never led us astray before. And the speaker continues, my children, we must act. The fate of the traveler, of humanity, will be decided here. Osiris is a viper, a cancer, and we must cut him out. And this earns a note from Shax, who is also kind of standing behind Saint. So not a part of the consensus, but still a notable Titan, who just, says to Ikora, like, this is ridiculous. And Ikora responds, you and I know it, but we need to convince the consensus and the crowd. And then she addresses the speaker directly, putting Osiris's chair back upright as she does so, saying, you say Osiris is a coward, speaker. Would a coward stand alone against not only the forces of the darkness, but the very people he's trying to protect? You say Osiris has abandoned us, and yet, even now, he is still working to help us, even if we don't understand what it is he's doing. We asked him to lead us, but then we decided he had to do more. Tell us the future, Osiris. Save us, Osiris. Think for us, Osiris. Osiris is not a god. None of us are. But he was chosen by the light, by the traveler. He wasn't resurrected so he could sit in the chair. He was resurrected so he could serve us, all of us, to be the best of his ability. And if Osiris says the Vex are a threat, then I believe him. You say that we must cut Osiris out if we are to survive, speaker, but the truth is this: we won't survive without him. And now the speaker addresses Ikora directly. Oh, my poor child. Seeing how Osiris has corrupted you, my resolve is strengthened. There must be no delays, no more debate. I move we save ourselves and our beautiful city. I move we do the only thing we can, the one thing that Osiris has forced us to do. I move that Osiris and his heresy be removed from the city. And this gets cheers from the crowd, throw him out, banish him, punish the heresy, remove the liar. And the speaker continues, and I further move that should Osiris resist this ruling, such punishment be brought to bear on him that he, and he's interrupted by a voice that says, that will not be necessary. Sagira and I will leave the city willingly. And it's Osiris at the doors, having opened the doorway to the consensus. And the final panel is of him walking out of the city, kind of into the sunset, never to be seen from again until the events of the Curse of Osiris expansion. And
Holy
that is
shit.
the end of this comic.
Two things. One, I think warlocks are the smartest people in the room. And I might actually be a Titan.
Well.
Yeah, nope, I have to accept it now. Because I am for sure not the smartest person in the room. I like to think I'm equated highly in the room. Nope. Punch it, solve it. Yeah, no, this is man. I kind of hate the speaker.
Yeah.
Was that intended? Like, I don't really like him anymore. First, I was kind of like, okay, yeah, we can follow this guy. He's all right. He's chill. He's good. No. This is shit. Fuck that guy. Take him, Gull. Like he said one of the coolest lines ever in a video game to be said to a bad guy. Like, that was cool and all, but you're kind of an asshole.
Well, I mean, and I will preface some of this with that was one of the main kind of complaints from people when this comic released, was that it seemed to change the personality of some of the characters, namely the speaker.
Oh yeah.
Uh, However, I think even if maybe it was a little more heavy-handed in the comic than what we see in game, I do think that the general idea of the speaker as a religious head was still there even in
Sure.
D1, just
Yep.
not as like in
Not
your
as prevalent.
face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I can agree with that. Yeah. No. Again, this idea of the speaker being of a religious point of power, I guess, and then to have like this throne that he has, like he's even painted himself as like the guy, like this is my congregation, this is my city, this is da 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 da. Yeah, that's just, I mean, that's absolute power corrupts absolutely,
Mm-hmm.
and that's one thing too. Like we even, again, kind of thinking back to the Gaul stuff of Red War. Um, he talks about how, like, I speak for the traveler. I never said it spoke to me. Like it, like I I know this isn't a speaker episode, but I kind of have questions now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how is that actually working? Like, does he just have like these weird ass visions in his sleep, and then he's like interpreting those as things from the traveler, or like?
So there's an episode in this for sure that we'll have to
Ah,
do sometime down the line
an
about the
Inception
speakers.
episode within an episode.
Well, that is to say, like, there's an episode worth of information
Oh, sure, sure.
about the
I thought we were going to put that
speakers.
episode in this episode and be like Inception episode.
Not quite.
Nope, not happening.
Um, but that I do want to investigate at some point and talk about the speakers of the past and like leading up to our current speaker. Um, but yeah, generally it's in dreams. It's in these dream visions that are
See, and that's
left to
just
be
dangerous.
interpreted.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's all interpretation. It's all just like whatever I feel like it means to me at the moment. That's dangerous, man.
Mm-hmm.
And then to create an entire set of government, like,
Yeah,
tied to that and revolving around that. That's freaking dangerous.
it is.
But I do love
very
that
much is.
Ikora has the the gonads to just kind of stand up and be like, "Hey, hold the hell on here. This is what you're saying. This is the reality." And then for that to just be kind of like brought down with a few words from the speaker going, "Yeah, no, she's in on it. Like, she's part of the conspiracy. Like, kick them all out. Like, heresy to the traveler and da da da." Yeah.
Well, and the way he does it is so masterfully manipulative
That's what I'm
because
saying. The pushing of the chair, like laying it at her feet and stuff, and then like, yeah,
well, and I think it's important because he doesn't point the finger at Ikora and like, look, she's part of the cult. He uses her to further his own agenda in the like, oh, you poor misguided thing, what has he done to you? Like,
yeah,
which is an
you
extra
manipulative
layer
piece
of
of
like,
shit, speaker.
yeah. It's that.
Hey, I hate him more now.
It's that extra layer of gaslighting on top of
That's
everything
what I'm
else.
saying.
Yeah.
Like, I like, before I was like, okay. I say before like the speaker died at the hands of Gaul, I was like, okay, yeah, he's kind of like the leader. Like I get it. Like he felt like the central point of like, yeah, there's the Vanguard, there's Cade, there's Ikora, there's Zavala, but like the speaker, like he's, yeah, they call it the Traveler, and then like very, again, regal, like very royal,
Mm-hmm.
but then like to think of it in this terms of like royal with religious tones in it,
Mm-hmm.
and now starting to think back through kind of interactions that I've had. I say I, like the Guardian, the player Guardian has had with the Traveler. It kind of paints him in a completely different light now. And then like to have like this like kind of darker undertone of like, yeah, he's not exactly right.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I
No,
think
it's this is
I
crazy.
I do think, and not to spend too much time on the speaker because it's not, like you said, it's not his
I
episode.
know, but it's
Uh,
so central to this too, to these
yeah,
two.
like it on one hand, like he's very much coming off as a manipulative piece of shit.
Yeah.
On the other hand, when you have an entire city built of nothing but disparate civilians and
Yeah.
superhuman, like superheroes,
Yeah. Yeah.
like
We essentially have just New York City and MCU is what's happening here,
yeah,
right?
yeah. On the other hand, to play devil's advocate, like, what is the one way to universally
Yep.
unite and, like,
Yep.
keep everyone under some semblance of peaceful control? And
And
that's
order, that
yeah.
order and civility type thing. Like, but again, that's the danger of mixing the two, like having that religious undertones driving the politicalness of it. Of keep everyone. It's interesting you use the word controlled, but that's, I mean, that's that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's a dangerous territory.
It is. Absolutely is. But so although Ikora did speak out at the consensus, and I do believe that she believes everything she said, uh, she also said in that like she doesn't even necessarily understand what it is Osiris is doing. She's just trusting that it is something to try and keep us safe.
Exactly.
Um, so that also means that she's in this weird spot of like, I want to trust my teacher and mentor, but I also don't fundamentally know what it is he's doing. So that's almost like a blind trust in that way. Um,
Well, at least we know who hurt Ikora.
well, uh,
you see, you see what? Because she
yeah,
builds the Vex thing directly to the Vex thing, and she's like, "See, this is a real problem."
yep.
And we go, "Yeah, that's cool and all. Do it over there in the mountains. Don't do it on the front door."
But so she does get kind of one last interaction with Osiris, although the comic makes it look like he just kind of fades into the sunset. We do have a lore card on the ship called Sails of Osiris, talking about him leaving and her being able to have a very just a quick conversation with him. Um, and so that lore card goes like this. Ikora walked into the hangar and found Osiris inspecting his ship's engine. She put her hand on a turbine and steadied her breathing. Make sure shipwright Hipponia does a diagnostic check before you leave for Mercury, she said to her old mentor. Caesar is very thorough. Osiris smiled wryly. You're always one step ahead of everyone else, and that makes you a leader among all warlocks. Then you understand why I must remain, to continue to lead as you once led. Thousands of Vex simulations can help us understand the darkness, Ikora, Osiris said. This could be the key to... Osiris, Ikora interrupted. I wish you well on your mission, but I fear that your obsession will be your undoing. Obsession? We've each made a choice. I choose to stay and fight what is real. And that's the end of that lore card.
That's an interesting. I choose to stay and fight what is real. I I mean that's kind of the real. That's the real problem right now, right? At this
Mm-hmm.
point in time, the Vex are a problem, but at the time, the Guardians at the time don't even understand the level of complexity of the problem that the Vex is. That the Vex are. That's a complicated sentence.
Yeah.
Um. So yeah, like it. But again, like the only thing that at the time that Guardians are really fighting are the Elixni. I don't even think are there even Cabal in the system at this time?
No. This is just
It's
Elixni.
just Elixni. So like that's the only thing that. But I mean, Elixni are ruthless as shit. Like
Yeah.
they are
And
ruthless.
and to provide some additional context around the timeline that all this is happening. Uh, so the Battle of Six Fronts happened. The city built itself up, afterwards. Um, but they are now seeing signs of the fallen gathering again, because this is
They're talking
just
about that weak point in
before.
Twilight Gap.
Yep, this is just
Yep.
before the Battle of Twilight Gap.
And that's where all the fallen houses. Like the only reason we didn't fall was because Mara stopped House of Wolves there.
Yes.
Like if they had made it to that battle, I don't know, the city would have been gone. Like I don't know that we would have had a city, a traveler, and anything. Like we'd all be playing as Elixni right now.
Yeah, actually, the only two reasons we didn't fall were Mara starting the Reef War, essentially, with the House of Wolves, and Shaxx not listening to Saladin and instead pushing the offensive instead of falling back.
Yep. Because if they had fallen back, that would have given them time to like recoup and get regathered. Yeah, no.
If either of those things had not happened, the city likely would not have survived.
Yeah.
So at the time that this consensus happened and Osiris was absent and the speaker moved to kick him out, like there were very real threats gathering on their doorstep that they and all the civilians knew were there.
Sure.
So
like this is the immediate issue.
Right.
Like the Vex are an issue, but they are not as big of an issue as you think they are, Osiris.
Right. And well, in the speaker's words, like the Vex are a non-issue. It's like they're irrelevant.
Right. And for that to come from like the head of everything, right? Like the head of both church and state, that's law now essentially.
Right. And so like this was a time of very real threats on the doorstep, and for Osiris to just not be there, like truly was not good.
Right. One of your most powerful warlocks and what was originally one of the Vanguard commanders, like, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing is that Osiris left because he was banished, but he left before the Battle of Twilight Gap. He was not there at the Battle of Twilight Gap.
Interesting.
So, like, on one hand, like, he's shirking his duties as Vanguard commander at a very critical time. But also by exiling him, you have removed a very powerful player from your side of the board.
Because I mean, just think of how he did in Six Fronts. I mean, he was at every front. Like, to have a single entity have that power and be able to wield that power at Twilight Gap, like Twilight Gap would have been a non-issue at that point, I think.
Yep. Or
maybe
certainly
not non-issue.
Yeah, easier for them.
I'm overplaying Osiris's abilities right now a little bit.
But so that means that those that were at Twilight Gap had to fight extra hard. And like we said, the House of Wolves being directed, and then Shaxx pushing the offensive when he was being ordered to retreat. And by Shaxx doing that, like everyone followed Shaxx essentially. Like they saw him build momentum, and they're like, "All right, we're in it."
We are throwing more grenades. We promise.
Yes.
We are throwing grenades as you're saying this. We got it.
Amongst the group that followed Shax into it to ultimately put an end to the Battle of Twilight Gap was Saint 14. And we see kind of that final moments of Twilight Gap in the D1 Grimoire card titled Legend Saint 14, subtitle Twilight's End, so the end of Twilight Gap. And that card goes like this. He could feel his light draining. He pulled all of it into one last hope. He reeled back, and bam! His helm found purchase, breaking through just above the Kell's eyes. And the ether screamed from his head, and together they fell to the ground. The Exo-Guardian rose, staggering back. He couldn't take his eyes off the Kell's body. He'd never seen any fallen withstand a skull puncture, but this was no ordinary fallen. He waited and waited. The ghost? The words barely audible. He heard her flash in, but had a hard time pinning her down. She was buzzing about, surveying the fallen Kell. He's dead, all right. So that's it. We're done now? He removed his helm, tossed it aside, and dropped to his knees. The devils without a Kell. This war was over at last. They could finally go home. We are. Get me the speaker. Opening his channel. Stand by. Is that you, my son? The speaker's voice was filled more with anticipation of news than concern. It is, father. The devil kills Solkis is dead. This war is over. Such courage and power. The greatest ever to brace these worlds. You bring all of us peace. We will light the final flare devil red. They will all know what you have done. Father, I don't think I have the energy to return. I'll rest here and come back to be honored when I return. Of course, son. But, there is something concerning you. More fallen march on the city? No, not this time. I have word that Osiris was seen on Mercury, the Calorus Basin. He's turned his mind to the Vex. Mercury. Too many channels to know. You activate one, you start to feed its veins. He threatens our peace. Your duty, my son. You must never forget. I cannot. And the ghost killed the feed and waited for its guardian's words. Prepare my Vex arsenal and plot a course for Mercury. That man is about to wake up hell. And that's the end of that one.
Ooh. Woo! Ah. Yeah,
So,
I might be a Titan. I do enjoy a good headbutt.
Yeah, I mean, it's effective.
That's how I got the dent in his skull, right? Or the dent in his, not his skull,
Yep,
his
and his helmet.
His helmet, yeah, the helmet Saint 14 has a big old dent in it because of that right there.
Yep, the headbutt that killed the Kell of Devils and ended the War of Twilight Gap. But yeah, so Twilight Gap is done, it's completed, and Saint is like, oh my god, I can finally go home. Only to get a message saying Osiris is on Mercury.
Go kill Osiris.
And he's messing with Vex stuff.
Go kill Osiris.
That seems to be the undertone
That's
a
what
little bit
that's
here.
what I'm saying, man. Like, did the speaker just tell Saint to go kill Osiris?
That is kind of the implication.
That's fucked up as shit, man.
Is he's like, hey, he's gonna go wake up the Vex. You know, that will put everyone at risk. Your job is to protect everyone.
Remember your duty.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here.
So Saint does not get to go home and instead suits back up, tells Geppetto, get my Vex arsenal ready. I think it's funny he has a Vex arsenal specifically too.
I think it's just perfect paradox is all it is.
Probably.
It's just that and what? His fist? I don't
I mean,
I
does
don't
he
know what
need
else.
more?
That's what I'm saying. Okay, so let's think this through logically. He's got perfect paradox. He'll need a sword, and he'll need a sidearm. So he's got keening, or does he have brass attacks? Does he have brass attacks?
I mean, like
He's a void. He's a void.
Canonically, neither. He would have breachlight.
Ooh, I
So
like that one too.
don't
like that
get
idea
too
too.
far into the weapons because we're actually going to discuss the weapons he brought with him.
Oh well, shit. Now I'm getting excited. Does that mean he also has guillotine? This guy and his void arsenal. I see what's going on here.
So Saint suits back up, gets in his ship, goes to Mercury, and discovers what Osiris discovered before him, the infinite forest. And we see kind of that realization of what he's standing in front of and his thought process. We're going to return to the web lore titled The Accolade, to another section. This, as a reminder, this was where all the people were giving him their little, their handkerchiefs or a strip of cloth or whatever, all the purple cloth that he's draped across himself and his ship and all of that to remember them by. We go back to the Accolade and we see this is what Saint is thinking as he lands on Mercury. And it says, Saint stood at the gateway to the infinite forest. 6 fronts, Twilight Gap, Boil Pass, the breaking of the weapons of rain. Other guardians always seemed to remember where and when they found the engrams that revealed the most treasured pieces in their arsenals, the Galahorns and the Dark Age antiques. He had difficulty with that. But he could name almost every person who had awarded him an accolade over the course of his guardian career. They covered every nook of his armor. They adorned his ship, the Grey Pigeon. And he realized he had never talked about them. And as he looked up at the yawning, translucent field before them, he wished now that he had, as he stepped through the gate. So that's the end of where we're going to read on accolades.
Like he has a chance to be like unwritten. No, I guess the infinite forest wouldn't unwrite you from existence, would it?
No, because
it's still just a big simulation.
Yeah. But he doesn't know what he's walking into. He just knows he's walking into a giant Vex portal looking for Osiris.
That's scary. That's scary. Whew, that's scary.
And we can see the arsenal he brought with him, presumably by nature of the fact they all have lore cards talking about his battles within the infinite forest.
Ah, I see what you did there.
So we're going to start with my personal favorite weapon in the entirety of the game.
I was thinking brass attacks. I think I meant to say breach light.
Yeah.
I was trying to poke at you a bit, and then I completely fucked it up, so that's on me.
That's all good. But yes, personal favorite of any weapon ever in Destiny for me is breach light. Good God, Bungie, bring it back, please. Uh,
How many kills do you have on yours? You still got it in your vault, right?
I still have it in my vault. Um, I want to say I was close to 20 or 30,000. I forget exactly what,
Get the
but
fuck out of here.
it was up there. Uh, but so starting with Breachlight, we just get little snippets. So I guess to preface, Saint was in the Infinite Forest for what to him seemed like probably hundreds of years.
Eons, maybe.
Uh, time unknown. Um, and he is the entire time he's there, he's fighting Vex and just randomly searching for Osiris because he has no control over this place. He just knew Osiris is in there, so I'm going in there and I'm gonna find him, and I'm just gonna destroy anything that gets between me and that goal,
There you go.
essentially. So we see some of his escapades here, starting with Breachlight, which goes like this. I find it odd, the cycle we're in. I have died many times, reborn anew, the fight pulsing through my veins. The Vex with their minds shared must also know this sensation. Fighting to die, dying to fight, over and over. I wonder what they know that I do not. Do their calculations ever have them victorious in their pursuit? We share this perpetual sequence in our encounters, yet there is no common ground outside of our mutual bloodlust. I die again. The anger rises. I fight back harder, wiping out the entire squadron of their patrolling units. More arrive, and I die again, ready for my next resurrection. And that's the end of that card.
He really is fighting his ass off to get to Saint. It,
Mm-hmm.
it it's it at this point in time. They're still not a couple, right? Like they're still just kind of comrades.
There hasn't been any indication. Like clearly they were on friendly terms, all the
Sure.
way back since they met, kind of at the founding of the tower.
Yeah.
But no real indication that they're together in that way at this point in time.
Okay.
Um,
It's just he is. It just it blows my mind. Like Saint is fighting his ass off.
yeah,
Die, res, anger, die, fight harder, res. Like he's really fighting his ass off to get to Saint. Hopefully not. And again, I'm assuming we'll see more as we read on, but hopefully not in a what would you call that? A malicious intent,
yeah.
like
Although,
from the speakers, like
right,
don't forget your duty, son. Kill him.
yeah. Although the speaker kind of gave that that undertone. Personally, I don't think Saint ever would.
I don't think
Like
he would
I,
either. I think Saint has too much of a. I don't want to say too much good in him, but Saint to me is like the epitome of a good guardian.
yeah. Well, and Saint's driving force has always been protect, protect
Yeah,
everybody.
full
And
stop.
like I think if he were against a warlord and the warlord was intentionally using his power to like kill and oppress other people, then yeah, he'd take him out.
Sure.
But if it's a person that truly with the best of intentions is also trying to help people, even if it's maybe misguided in Saint's point of view or unsuccessful, like I don't think Saint would ever kill that person
Yeah.
because they're not trying to harm people. They're just they're doing something that from Saint's point of view is dangerous.
Yeah.
But we continue with reading the lore card on the line in the sand, which was a linear fusion. And this one goes like this. The Vex are oppressive. Minotaurs fall over themselves to get the jump on me. I've exhausted my options. I need to use the distance to my advantage. I peer out over the rock's edge, and they seem to have lost me in the scuffle. The gentle hum begins, and I feel my weapon charging between my hands. I take out 2 with the first shot, another 2 with the next, and they scatter now, confused and irate. They seek me out desperately. All I can offer is another barrage that depletes their numbers and creates more scrap. The last 2 couldn't get within 10 meters. It's a small victory, and I am alone once more. It helps to set boundaries. That's the end of that one.
Just doing what you can. That's all there is. You're in a strange land, a strange territory, fighting an endless surge of enemies, and you do what you can.
Yeah. So the next one we're going to look at is the Gallant Charge, which is a fusion rifle. And this one goes like this. How did they find me? Every direction I turn, they are there. The beady, phosphorescent red eyes of the hobgoblins fill in the darkness around me. I look for cover, but more infernal machines teleport in, blocking my path. I am outnumbered. Perhaps my luck has run out. They inch closer in pairs, 2 by 2. They prepare to disintegrate me. But there is still more for me to do, more heads to break. My weapon charges. I breathe in, and I move. And that's the end of that one.
Yeah, doing what you can.
He's just going, and
Fighting the fight.
yeah, and I'm reading through all of these to try and like really nail home how like this is his
This is an endless
existence.
battle. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's all he does. Eats, sleeps, and breathes, killing Vex. That's all he does for hundreds and hundreds of years.
Yeah. So I say 2 more of these weapons. The next one is Martyr's Retribution, which says this. There seems to be no end to them. No matter how many I destroy, there are always more. An infinite, ceaselessly multiplying array of circuits and fluid. New units replace their ruined predecessors, forming out of sapphire transmat clouds. They want me dead. They won't stop until I meet my demise. They persist. For all their vast knowledge, they seem to have one blind spot. They should know by now that I also want them dead. And I won't stop either. That's the end of that one.
I mean, yeah, that's Saint.
So the last one of these weapons is the Steel Feather Repeater, which was also a fantastic auto rifle. And this one says this. I feel the recoil of the weapon and loosen my grip. The more I fight it, the more it fights me. And I choose to let it lead. It finds the milky cores and bursts them with a satisfying combustion, radiolarian fluid glinting in the light. It guides me as I support it. We work in tandem, a brilliant dance of destruction, leaving nothing but ruin in our wake. Nothing can stop this union. And that's the end of that one.
It's just blowing my mind like how much it is literally eat, sleep, breathe, kill Vex, nonstop.
That's all his life is when he's in here.
I guess there is no sleep.
No,
it's just kill Vex. Damn that. Wow, that just got a little bit more real. Like there is no sleep. There is no eat, breathe. It is just kill Vex nonstop.
Yep.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week, eh, for eternity. That's got to be hell, right? Like I feel like that's what hell would be like.
It'd be tiring at the very least.
Yeah.
Uh, but as some of us may know already, if you were around for, let's say, the Season of Dawn and Curse of Osiris, eventually Saint is overcome after many, many years and truly a countless number of Vex bodies behind him. He eventually meets his match. And we're going to see kind of his take on that in the lore card for the Perfect Paradox, the shotgun that started it all. And this one goes like this. I never found Osiris, but I've killed enough Vex to end a war, and they, in turn, have struck a fatal blow. They completed a mind with the sole function to drain the light from me. It worked very well. Don't worry. Not that you worry much. It took them centuries to build, keyed to the unique frequency of my light, and I sit atop its shattered husk. I mourn that I will never reach the heights you have. To me, you represent everything a guardian can become. Yours is a thriving city, so different from mine. My whole 14th life, I fought to make my city yours. I never finished. All I have left is this weapon. The Cryptarchs say you crafted it yourself, built it out of scraps and light and sheer will inside the infinite forge. I'll make sure it finds its way back to you. When you gave it to me, I swore I would make it my duty to follow your example. I'm still trying. And that's the end of that card.
That still fucking blows my mind, man. Like that shotgun really is the perfect epitome of a perfect paradox. Like we gave it to him. Like it's a paradox. Like there is no start to this.
Right.
He received it from us at some point in time in his past, in our past, in both past, whatever. Used it all the way up until the end and died with it in his arms. We then find it, or find the scraps of it, find the pieces of it, to forge it back together, to then give it to him in the past, so he can have it and have our message and our like idea of a perfect city ingrained in him, and to say, hey, this is what it means. I'm a guardian because of you, and for him to then be like, oh, I'm a guardian because of you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is literally the perfect paradox. This is why time travel is bad, kids. You step on a butterfly and you kill a dinosaur.
Kind of.
That's always like the funny thing. Like, oh, I stepped on this leaf, so now this subset of whatever doesn't exist anymore and was never born. So now, yeah, now we don't know what the color purple is.
Yeah, butterfly theory is wild.
Kind of cool.
But no, so and if you didn't get to experience this in game, I would
Dude,
really recommend looking up a YouTube video or something, because the Vex had reverence for
Yeah.
Saint by the time that he finally fell, to the point where they erected a monument, a tomb for his body made from the bodies of the thousands upon thousands of
It was
Vex he
literally
had
like a
killed.
mountain of Vex
It
constructs,
is
parts.
insane.
Yeah.
And kind of laid to rest is Saint's body with just like a single shaft of light falling over it. Um, and it
It's cool. It's
incredible,
fucking cool. It's really
incredible
cool.
scene. Yeah. Um, and Saint knew that this might be his final time. Uh, this might be it. Like the Infinite Force was a very dangerous place. He knew that this was not going to be uh, an easy one to come back from. And so he left a message, not only on the Perfect Paradox, which was for us, the Guardian, but he also left a message on his ship, the Gray Pigeon, for a few other people. And I do like, before I get into the lore card, I really like the flavor text on this. It's someone asking him, why is your ship named the Gray Pigeon? And Saint's response is, the name? Pigeons are the only birds left in the city sky. One of the many last things we fight for. If you have a problem with that, we can step into the crucible. So just fun little flavor text.
Throw some blow, like let's go.
uh, but so on the lore card for the Gray Pigeon, we see the ship's final log, which reads like this: Osiris, I hope whatever you find in this place is worth it. My recommendation to install you as Vanguard Commander was not a gesture to stroke your ego. It was an order to stay and help the city achieve all that it could. An order that you refused to follow. News of my demise will no doubt reach you late. I can already see your response, the guilt that will follow. I thought you had changed after 6 fronts, that seeing your people on the brink of destruction and spared from death would be reward enough to stay, to fight. Instead, I will fight for you one last time. Father, my duty is at its end. I have seen what the city can become. I know you can lead its people to it. And to my inspiration, your final gift to me, I now send back to you. It will be good to see you again. And that's the end of that.
Oh, now I'm gonna be sad.
So the saint, and this is an important note. Saint is never confirmed KIA because he just for the entire rest of the Guardian population, he just went to Mercury and disappeared.
Yeah.
They knew that he was hunting Osiris, but beyond that, no one knew anything that happened to Saint other than he left for Mercury and was never seen again.
So, like, as far as like the outside world is concerned, Saint and Osiris are just gone now.
Yeah. I mean, they at least knew that that Osiris had been exiled, but I don't think it was widely known where he went.
Yeah.
Um, it was just that, he left because they kicked him out. But Saint was more of a mystery, was more of a like he went on a final mission and just never came back, and no one knows what happened to him, kind of thing. Uh,
Yeah, that's not suspicious at all.
no, of course not. Um, and we do see as the time goes on, because after Saint is gone, and from that point forward, the timeline keeps going, stuff keeps happening. The great disaster with the first attempts to retake the moon from Crota, with everyone dying essentially. Um, and the building up of the city, and Ikora truly becoming a part of the Vanguard now. Zavala assuming the commander role.
It's like they disappeared and life just moved on without them.
I mean, it had to. Like,
Yeah.
so all of this stuff is happening, and the speaker maybe has a little bit of regret around how things were handled.
Yeah, because he was kind of an asshole.
And we can see the speaker is kind of musing on how things went down, um, in the grimoire card titled Osiris. And this one goes like this. What drives a warlock to madness? Ghosts choose those suited to war and heroism to be reborn. By nature or circumstance, they go to battle against the darkness, and through this battle, they learn how to use the light. But warlocks, by their nature, fight a second, internal war. This is the war to understand a universe of secrets, a world that expects guardians to fight without full knowledge of what they are or what they might hope to achieve. You were a mighty warrior. I watched you at Six Fronts and heeded the call of Saint 14 to appoint you Vanguard Commander. Even when the Concordat claimed to have records proving you were a Golden Age experiment misincarnated as a human by an inept ghost. Saint 14 assured me you were just a man without much patience for obfuscation. I watched as you grew tired of strike missions and the grueling, unproductive sessions of the Cryptarchs. That was when I took you under my wing. I saw our future in you. But your curiosity was voracious. How much of a guardian's personality and memories were true? How much had been fabricated by their ghost? Did guardians share particular personality traits? A willingness to yield to authority, a tendency to do anything anyone asked for the promise of uncertain reward, a blind knight errant mentality. Had the traveler manufactured all of you as living weapons? I admit, I found your questions divisive and disloyal, and I feared you might be capable of breaking our unity when the city's position had grown so tenuous. Why divert attention away from the traveler, our only hope? And then it got worse. Dabbling in Thanatonautics, Ahamkara lore, chasing after Zur and the tricks of the Nine, launching expeditions into the reef and beyond at a time where ships were irreplaceable. Your quest split guardians along ideological lines. This was your greatest crime. Hunters chose to pursue your visions instead of protecting refugees. Titans assembled teams to chase the legendary Vault of Glass instead of striking at the fallen. And the warlocks turned away from the study of the traveler in favor of your ultimate obsession, learning the exact nature of the darkness. When debate became argument, and argument became acrimony, I realized you had already become a cult of personality, attracting guardians who wanted a clear idea of why they were fighting and what they faced and how they would ultimately win. I don't know where you have gone, but I can no longer send ghosts out to find you. Some come back with tales of your death, or how you went seeking answers for the far reaches of space and time, that you found a way to explore the Vex Gate networks, that you've made breakthrough after breakthrough as to their origins, theories that a guardian could not be simulated, that the traveler might be an ontoformer or a god incubator, that the Vex had diverged into multiple groups in order to secure an end state for every possible configuration of reality. I fear you have become obsessed with the Vex as Toland was with the Hive. I've heard your own insane prophecies about pits and dead Hive kings and of Crota, which I cannot deny. I hear stories of Lord Shaxx meeting with fire teams of warlocks who have no shadow and never blink, of jump ships slipping into the reef on cold trajectories and meeting no intercept, of questions hidden in matter engrams and answers decrypted on distant battlefields. Perhaps you're still out there, and if this reaches you, I would very much like to speak with you, to finally hear your theories in your own words. Because perhaps what drives a warlock to madness is truth. And that's the end of that one.
So then Savathun can't be a warlock because she likes lies. See what I did there? The truth thing and the lies. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
dumb.
I get it.
Yeah, it was dumb. No, no, this is really interesting because like he goes through. There's very much regret here. Like, what that regret is kind of like questionable. Like, is he regretting that he threw him out? Is he regretting that he didn't lead him enough? Is he regretting that he turned him away? Like, the regret is definitely there, but like, um, he even kind of comes back with like the reports of the different ghosts of like, well,
Yeah.
some say that you're dead, some say that like a guardian can't be simulated, some say that the traveler is a god incubator. Like, some of these things have just a hint of truth to them, and so from the speaker's point of view, it's hard to like decipher like even what is true, what isn't true. But it's no matter like no matter how you look at it, there's definitely regret here,
Yeah.
line through the whole thing.
Yeah, it's the like, you know, we are I think the speaker finally realizes that they have truly lost somebody of great value.
Yeah, and again, I kind of keep thinking back to that idea of son, right? Like, there's almost that tone of familiarity there,
Mhm.
of like I've lost my son to the universe.
Yeah, and I mean he even says that like he took him under his wing for a little bit and we know from it's the only thing that really tells us this, but we know from the original Trials of Osiris Warlock Bond, the flavor text on that describes Osiris as being the speaker's apprentice for a time.
Yeah.
So like there was a time where the speaker and Osiris were very close from the sounds of it. And like we're working, you know, the speaker was trying to bring Osiris up to be maybe the next speaker. Uh but Osiris was just asked too many questions, you know?
That's that's like the crazy part too, is like why?
Yeah.
Like in all of this, just that one question of why. Why are we fighting? What are we fighting for? How do we get to the end game? How do we get to a completionist state? It's just it's a dangerous question, and again, even more dangerous when you have that religious um, ideology driving all decision making for the city. Um, yeah, that's it. That's it. It's just it's yeah, dangerous.
It
Dangerous is the
is.
only word I can think of. But I also found it interesting, like the again, kind of some of the things the Ghost reporting back on are like that the Vex have split into different factions to secure whatever end state they need to, and that's absolutely happened. Like
Yeah.
we talk about that in our Vex episode. That's literally what the Vex are doing. Like some of these things are not as far fetched as they sound, and yeah, it's again it the kind of again we've already talked about all the Vex stuff, but not to harp on the Vex stuff, but like the Vex really are a threat.
Oh
Like
yes.
they truly are the threat in the universe. Like I I I know the Witness is big bad and darkness as a whole is big bad, and you know with the theory that Myth and I kind of have going right now of like there is something above the Witness being the voice in the dark, like that is bad, but like the Vex are just bad from a existence standpoint. Like the ideology behind fighting good, fighting evil, fighting darkness, fighting light, like that's all good, fine and dandy, but it's a ideologic war. Whereas
Yeah.
like the war against the Vex is a war of existence, of just being, and that's a harder one to fight. I don't know about harder, like but it's definitely a hard battle.
Yeah, and going back to what Osiris said in the first issue of the comic that we read last episode, there's a chance all the other races will eventually die out, tire out, like have a change of heart, whatever it may be. There's a chance that those problems will go away. The Vex will never go away.
Yeah. Yep. And it's funny because like we're kind of at that precipice right now, right? Like the
Yeah.
Elixir are a non-issue, the Cabal are a non-issue, like even the Hive are starting to become a non-issue. Taken are kind of a non-issue. Like the only thing that really is an issue is the Vex. Like we still don't have a solution for stop the Vex other than we are paracausal, and that's kind of like the only thing that's kind of stopping that. So yeah.
So, I essentially this then gets us into Destiny 1. And the time period where our player guardian is revived or shortly, shortly before perhaps with some events, but around that same time. Um Osiris has been making connections during his exile. Uh clearly he learned that Saint went into the Infinite Forest after him and is presumed dead. But again, like Osiris has no way to find Saint's body in the Infinite Forest. Like it's the Infinite Forest. Uh, he would just have to luck upon Saint's final resting place in all of space and time on Mercury. Um,
That's too much. There's no way.
yeah,
Even with all of his reflections, there's no way he's getting to that overnight.
no. So presumably he knows that at least Saint is gone or is missing. Um, but he's made some other connections during his exile. Specifically, it's referenced as him having dealings with the Nine. or at least having approached the Nine, as well as Mara, the Queen of the Reef. Um, and this is also where the cult of Osiris starts to come into play again. So clearly, the cult is not active in the city because, like, Speaker would not be happy with them.
I was going to say, Exile kind of does that, right?
Yeah. Um, but this is a time where the cult has started to reform a little bit. It has now selected a member to be in a leadership role of sorts. That being Brother Vance.
Oh, our favorite nut job.
Yeah. So for those that only ever met Brother Vance through Destiny 2, he was in Destiny 1 as well, but purely as a vendor. Um, he was much less crazy and a lot more dark and mysterious in Destiny 1. Um, but he had a couple of idle dialogue lines if you just hung around his character on trials times, that are kind of interesting. Uh, that those dialogue lines imply that he's been tracking Osiris, and he knows Osiris has talked to the queen, has met with the Nine. Um, and the entire reason that Vance is there is at the reef when the Trials of Osiris kicked off in Destiny 1, uh, which was during the House of Wolves expansion. The whole reason Vance is there is because he wants to get close to the queen to see if she knows where Osiris is.
That's smart.
Uh,
Set up
and
shop in her backyard and be like,
yeah,
maybe she'll walk through the courtyard one of these days.
yeah. And we do know that Vance did get a chance to talk to her because one of his idle dialogues, he says, "The queen once whispered a secret to me, and I know one day I'll share it with Osiris."
Ooh.
So he did have a meeting with the queen, and she apparently imparted some info uh, to good old Vance.
Well, and this kind of brings up a question. Um, what was the purpose of Trials of Osiris? Since this is an Osiris and Saint episode, why?
So the trials of Osiris were, as far as we can tell, purely a invention of the cult, not of Osiris himself.
Okay.
The cult's
Working with
philosophy,
Shax, or just kind of just like this was just like a
their own thing.
complete own thing. Okay.
Yep, the cult's philosophy was Osiris has predicted these dark, terrible things on the horizon. We feel like the crucible isn't enough. So we are going to go out of our way to uh, try and essentially like do a harsher crucible that's going to better prepare guardians for these dark things that have been predicted to be coming.
Like the idea of like dying and resing and just coming back and being like, okay, try it again. These dark times are going to be so bad that it's going to like you have one shot,
Yeah.
and if you die, there is no coming back.
Yep. So it's very much they were kind of like trying to strengthen the guardian population in general and or build up their own like cult of Osiris army in a way.
Yeah, yeah.
Because they're like, well, the tower's not going to listen to our prophet and they're not going to prepare people for what's coming, so we're going to do it. So what is interesting as well is that there is another liaison of information that was keeping Osiris informed of what was happening in the outside world while he was on Mercury messing around in the forest. That being Eris Morn.
Dude, she's got her fingers in everything.
Yeah.
She really is like the greatest guardian, I think. She's like, dude, I'm just now kind of like putting all that, like, she had her fingers in with everything with the reef. Like, she's like Mara's, like, what, personal confidant to the
Yeah.
Guardians?
Mm-hmm.
Like, she's into the Ahamkara stuff. She's into the Hive stuff. She's now a Hive god. Um,
Was.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. She did lay down her mantle, which good on her. Like, I was fully expecting her to succumb, and we were gonna have to fight her, and then I was pretty sure we were gonna lose. Um, but yeah, and then to have her finger in like Cult of Osiris, like she really has her finger in everything.
Mm-hmm.
Was she really a hunter?
Yeah.
I think she was a warlock. I think she's a secret warlock.
Hey, hunters can be awfully wily as well.
A little too much night, not enough stalker.
Right? But no, so we see, we can confirm that Eris was in correspondence with Osiris via the grimoire card from the Taken King titled The Road to King's Fall. And this is a message from Eris to Osiris, kind of relaying what is going on at the moment, at this point in time. And so she says, "We have confirmed it among our number within the hidden. I have asked Ikora's warlocks to reach out, and they sense nothing. The orb is quiet. On the moon, his shrine is dark and cold, and it is true. The Taken King is dead. The Hive's dark god and his foul son have been purged from the universe. She was right, scholar. Queen Mara was right. It is all down to the Guardians now. Let us hope they are up to the tasks ahead of them." And then, little subtext, Eris Morn, undisclosed report to Osiris. And that's the end of that card.
I mean, presumably some of the Taken King stuff is being simulated. Forgot what that word was for a second. In the Infinite Forest, and so like the Vex are seeing these repercussions of this. Like obviously they still can't simulate paracausality, but they can still simulate like what Oryx is, and then they
Yeah.
sent a mind to him. Like I mean, they
Mhm.
sent Quoria, so like they know about all this. So yeah,
Yeah, and Quoria uploaded what information
all
they
of that data.
had prior
Yep.
to being taken. So yeah. So yeah, but the Eris is keeping Osiris appraised of like, hey, this is the stuff that's going
This is
on
how
out here.
reality's going. Like simulation or not, this is how reality's going.
Yeah. So with that, it's a little earlier than normal, but I think we're going to end episode 2 here, just because the next thing to get into with this story is a whole big deal. So
Episode 3.
we'll pick that up next time.
This is this the second or third episode?
This is episode 3. This is
Okay.
episode 3. Yeah.
So we end episode 3 early here.
Yes. Did I say 2? My bad.
You did say 2.
Yeah. Well.
That's okay. It's time travel. It's fucky.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right. Shout outs.
Yes. So we do have a couple shout outs. So let's say the first comes to us actually from our email. And
which may eventually become our primary correspondence because Twitter
yeah.
is fucking shit. I don't know what's going on over there anymore.
Yeah, so we'll see. This is definitely a way that people can reach out to us if they want. But regardless, this comes to us from the gamer tag is Tomcat in Socks.
Oh.
So,
Like
but they say, Just wanted to leave you guys a quick review for the show. I've learned more listening to this show over the last couple months than I have in my years of following popular YouTube lore channels. I've li-
Oh, we're getting rivaled.
I've listened to several episodes more than once, and I especially enjoyed the History of the Awoken series, as 2 out of my 3 Guardians are Awoken, and Queen Mara is probably my favorite character overall. You guys have great chemistry on the show, and I can't wait for new episodes to drop on my Spotify list. Thanks for all you do, and keep up the great work.
Myth can definitely attest to the awokenness.
Oh, yes. Zora and I both love everything Awoken.
I'm telling you, this new revelation of this next season, Season of the Wish, with this Ahamkara egg, like Myth and I have
Yeah.
tons of theories just like floating in the ether. Like this, we're like, oh, this might bring stuff to a close. No, this is going to ask 1,001 more questions.
Yeah, as it is, or as it does. But and say yes, very the Awoken history we did has a special spot in my heart too, just because I do enjoy kind of their whole story so much.
I think Myth identifies as awoken.
I mean, my main character is Awoken, so there you
Mine's
go.
an EXO because I was like, oh, what is this blue race thing? I don't know what that is. I'm gonna be a robot.
I'm gonna be a
I feel
robot.
dumb. I feel dumb now making that decision that way. But I now know that I am Titan.
No, that's all right. But I say, regardless, thank you. I'm glad that you're enjoying it enough to listen to some episodes multiple times.
Yeah,
And say, I don't even like listening to myself that much.
I do.
Oh well, there you go.
I like listening to myself and Myth that much.
But no, I'm glad that we're able to give you some info that in a more easy to digest way. I do feel like kind of doing the long form content where we can lay out bigger pieces of a story all at once really lends itself to kind of some of the Destiny histories and things. So yeah.
Yeah, being able to see that like in a like it's one thing to like, oh, I know of Twilight Gap. Oh, I know of the War on the Moon. Like I know of this, but like to have like a definitive like start to finish. Hey, this happened, then this happened, then this happened.
Mm-hmm.
To me that drives the like I again I love history. I love specifically world history around World War I, World War II time frame, and then into the obviously into the 50s, 60s, and 70s. But yeah, I love history, and so to be able to see these stories throughout the history of Destiny, it drives me. I love it.
Yeah. So our second shout out comes to us from the aforementioned burning Twitter.
X. You know what it makes me think of? When we say it like that, it makes me think of Fern Gully. Hexes.
Oh.
Yeah, that just got real, didn't it?
That
Turn on my nightmares from 13-year-old me.
yeah, I was gonna say it was a good movie. I enjoy it now, but it was a little scary when I was younger.
Literally I could not watch it as a kid. Like I watched it like 2 or 3 times and I loved it. I loved Batty, but like that freaking smog, freaking Tim Curry, you will
Yeah.
forever haunt 13-year-old me nightmares.
But so our second shout out comes to us from Scarlet. And they say, you guys always do amazing work with these early Destiny stories where the Guardian wasn't necessarily there. I love the imagery of the legendary light bearers fighting and using their light to protect the city. It's fun to compare it to things that we do in game. And I agree. It is. It's really cool to see like to get an idea of the Battle of Six Fronts and Twilight Gap
Yeah.
and Osiris and his reflections everywhere and Saint as he's barreling through to try and get to the survivors at Twilight Gap and all of that, and then taking that and going like, well, my guardian does some cool things now, and like trying kind of seeing the DNA of what our guardians do in game in some of those older stories. Just it makes you really feel connected to some of those characters.
It does. Again, it's history. Like I love studying history for two parts. One, my main thinking is like we need to study history so we can learn from mistakes. Like if you don't learn history, you're doomed to repeat it. And so like to think of it from that standpoint of like, see, okay, well, we've made these decisions before, or as humanity as a whole has made these decisions before, and this is the outcome from before. So let's use that experience to try to maybe make a different decision at this point in time. See if it results in a different outcome. Because if you do the same thing over and over and over again, expecting different results, that's the definition of insanity. Like it just doesn't work. But then again, to be connected to it, to like kind of like live in their shoes of like, oh, this is how they handled a battle. Okay, this is how I'm going to handle a battle. Like it's super neat. I love the history portion of it.
Yeah, absolutely. But and thank you. I'm glad that you think that we do good work with these stories.
Yeah.
That's always the goal, is make the game more accessible story wise, and B, tell the stories that aren't told in game.
Yeah.
So it's good. It's always good to hear that we're accomplishing on that front. But yeah, so that's it for the shout outs for this episode. And say if you like what you hear and you want to support us in some way, leaving a review on your platform of choice goes a long way. If you can leave a text review and you feel strongly enough to do so, we love reading those. Or you can reach out to us on Twitter at Myths and Stories, Z instead of an S. Or I'm going to open this up here as well, just because of the nature of social media being what it is. If you're more comfortable sending us an email, that's cool too. It's Myths and Stories, spelled exactly the same way as the title, just at Gmail. And you can send us that way too. So
yay.
But yeah, so you can leave it in whatever way works for you, and you may hear yourself as a future shout out.
Yeah. I don't know who to thank in this one. You know what? Thank you, Ikora, for having to bear that weight of leadership so early. And I give you shit for making bad decisions now, but I see where it's coming from now. I get it. You speak up, and then you're put in a position of authority. I say authority and power, but it's less than that. The position of leadership without actually wanting that position of leadership. Like, I don't ever think Ikora wanted to be Vanguard commander. She liked the idea of being a warlock. I think she likes the idea of Osiris. I think she looks at his teachings and says, okay, well, there is a lesson to be learned here, but this isn't a gospel. This isn't word of law. Like this isn't law. But then also to like question the leadership above her, that being the speaker, and say, hey, maybe you don't have all the right answers either. Maybe none of us have the right answers. Good on you, Ikora, and thank you for questioning. Thank you for asking why.
Yeah.
But please stop fucking cheating. Cast one goddamn super and let the motherfucker recharge. All right. Well, that's it for me. You got anything else, Beth?
That's it.
All righty. Well, then from all of us lore daddies to all of you guardians out there, we'll see you next time.